Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first a quick word from my sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, Kiender.co.uk. Kiender stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to Kiender and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So in today's review, I'm taking a look at Mythwind. Thanks for the review copy. And this is a new Kickstarter that is fulfilling, I think, as we speak. I believe a lot of people have now got their copies and are playing it. And there's certainly some mixed reactions on the internet as to whether this is good and bad. I was intrigued by this though because of another game I played. Because what Mythwind is essentially trying to do is be a game that you don't actually win or lose. You just play it and let things evolve, and that's kind of it really. Well, I reviewed another game last year called Lands of Galzier, which did kind of the same thing, except these two do have some distinguishing features. But this one was essentially a narrative story game which you played, and there wasn't really a major win or lose condition, but you got to customize your character, go through these different branching story paths and kind of play how you liked. It was a sandbox narrative feel. Check out my video on this. I gave it a pretty solid review. Now, Mythwind is doing a similar thing, but it's approaching it more from a Euro standpoint. So this one doesn't really have much of a narrative at all. It's more about the fact that you control a character in the game, and the character will have its own little mini game of Euro mechanics that you have to, rinse and repeat over again in order to produce money. And with this money, you build up your town full of these little building cards that you can kind of just choose whatever buildings you like, and you populate the town, you do your mini game a little bit more, you progress a bit further, you do a few story cards for like some event narratives, maybe achieve a goal or two, and then you rinse repeat for another season and another season and another season with no actual major end. There is no plot in this game per se. It is literally get out, play it how you like, and just go with the flow. Now the question is, does it succeed at that? Is the fact that this is more about Euro gaminess rather than narrative going to hurt it? Is this a game that I would want to just bring out if I just wanted something to do, to pass the time? Or does this scratch the wrong itch? We'll have to see.
Oh, short answer yes with an if, long answer no with a but.
Aesthetics-wise, Mythwind is a fairly pleasant thing to look at. I mean, the card artwork is mostly just a wall of text, but the backs of them have got some nice pictures on them. The mat boards are, nice and pleasant to look at as well. They're colourful, they're dual layered, so there is an element of, some component quality there. And everything comes in these like personal trays. So you have a main tray for setting up the game and sort of like the main area. But then, for example, you have the farmer here, who I've reset after playing it for a while. Who has their tray, all the components are kept inside with a lid, and so all you got to do is just give a player their tray and they're kind of all way to go. And that's kind of one of the other aspects of this that's pretty good, is that once you get past the first couple of games, when you're sort of trying to learn how this works and you've played a couple of seasons, the setup and takedown for this game is not that long. There's a few little fiddly elements to do, but they're, you'll get used to them. For the most part, if you're used to playing this and you've played it for a decent amount of time, you'll save the game at the end of a session, and then all you really have to do is just kind of take your tray out, take the main board out, put the buildings back on it, and, or if you're brave, you can leave the stuff in there, but the stuff in there does fall out if this thing gets tipped up too high, so be careful. But for the most part, you should be able to set this game up in a matter of minutes and just get going again. It's good when a game like this does give you a nice speedy way to just say, you know what, I feel like playing this game, but I don't have ages to set it up. Well, you don't have to worry in this one. This one is very quick to get out of the box and just get back to whatever it was you were doing.
40 seconds, but I want it now!
There's a reasonable amount of variety in this, and it's going to keep those who enjoy the game occupied for a fair length of time. There is no real set guideline as to how many hours of time this should set you, but if you imagine you're playing each season taking about an hour of your time, maybe an hour and a half tops, then you're probably going to be playing a good, I'd say 30 plus seasons or something before you get to a point where it's like, okay, maybe we can reset and start again. And that's a decent amount of time to invest in a game. but you have 4 characters, and I'm not going into the innkeeper from the expansion, I'm not interested in the expansions, but you've got 4 separate asymmetric characters to play, each with their own sort of mini games and rulebooks. So ranger, merchant, farmer, and crafter, that range in complexity, although kind of weird that they give you some reasonably complex characters in the base box when they were doing expansions. I mean, the farmer is your starter one, complexity 1, but then 2 of these are complexity 3 and 1 is complexity 4, and it's like, well, where's the complexity 2s? Surely the base game box should be just 1, 2, and 3 level complexities, and then expansion content can give you 4s and 5s, because I don't want to throw a really complex character on somebody who's learning this base game for the first time. And it does mean that if you were to play this multiplayer, although for reasons we'll get onto, why would you? You know, you're giving 4 out, and you're going to have to accept that one person is going to have to control the merchant, who's the most complex character in this box. Is that going to be you teaching it, or is somebody else going to want to try it? You know, woe betide them. But you know, you can play this game, you know, solo, multi-handed, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, and mix and match these characters to your heart's content. But you also have the cool aspect that you can just simply put one away and do another one next time. So I'll play the farmer for about 10 seasons, okay? Do my thing. I've got my tray, lovely jubbly. All right, do. You know what? I don't feel like playing the farmer anymore. Well, you don't have to reset the game or the city. The city stays there. You just simply change a character. So it's like, you know what, I don't feel like the farmer. Go away, farmer. Not interested. Ooh, you know what, I fancy playing the crafter this time. Yeah, I'm going to play the crafter and give that one a go. And so you have the opportunity to kind of tailor how you play this game while you're playing it. You don't have to do what some games do, which is, you know, reset the whole thing to allow another player in. Now, Lands of Galdir did this as well, because Lands of Galdir enabled you to literally just resign and bring in new characters willy-nilly. And I think all games like this need to have that kind of system in place. But it's here, and it does give you a nice bit of variety before you even think about buying expansion characters. The rules to this game are not the most complex in the world, but the problem is that there is still quite a decent amount of them, and it's exacerbated by the fact that when you play something like Lands of Galdir, you learn the rules in about 5-10 minutes, and then that's it. There's all the rules, you're done. Here, though, you have a problem, because you have the town charter, which is your main rulebook, and this is a 45, 47, 49 page rulebook. Okay, now, you know, some of it is a reference for like building appendices and stuff like that, but for the most part, there is still a decent amount of rules in here. And yeah, you may think, oh, come on, it's a mini book. All right, devil's advocate, all right, mini rule book. This is still going to be something like the equivalent of a 25 to 30 page rule book if it was a full A4 size thing. That's a decent amount of rules that you got to cover in here, but that's just the main game. You then have 4 rule books to do with the characters. I don't know where I've shoved the farmer. Where's he gone? There he is. You know, so if you want to learn a character on top of this, you've now got to learn another rulebook, which is another 20, 33, 35 page rulebook for the farmer. It's a 47 page rulebook for the merchant. It's a, 27 page rulebook for the crafter. And yeah, you may think, well, it's a mini book. Okay, let's cut the pages in half. It's still a good 20 pages worth, on average, for each character that I've got to learn. This doesn't feel to me like a game I can pick up and play at a moment's notice, especially if I put this down for a while, or reset to a new character. You know, I've played the farmer for a bit, right? I've spent all this time learning how it works and all that done solving the character. Okay, cool. And now I feel like playing the ranger. Fine. All right, I better learn how this works then. So they do this. So that's how the tray works. Okay, that's how tools work. Then they explore, preparation, reveal expedition card. You got to absorb quite a bit of it. It's like learning an entire new game every time you want to change a character, and that it gets a little grating for a game that's supposed to be a relaxing, just play how you like with no ending. You know, if I've got to do all this work in preparation, that kind of detracts from that objective, doesn't it?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Now, I mentioned that the characters themselves, there is a decent amount of variety in the game. You have 4 characters. Unfortunately, how you play each character is kind of very one note. They each have a very different mini game. You know, the ranger's, exploring the wilderness with cards. The crafter is building, various little components and selling them off for cash. The farmer has got a little polyomino tile laying game to, lay down crops, flip them over and sell them off. So each one has a unique style of play, but it is the one style of play. There is no variation as to how to play each character. And even though this game says that, you should, play it how you like, it's fine, go at your own pace, that's not the recommended strategy, okay? Each character clearly has a way to solve it and do well with the money generation. I played the farmer first, literally thinking, you know what, I'm not going to bother with equipment. Why do I need equipment? You know, fine, let's just try and do simple crop laying and flipping and sell them off. If you do that, you will barely make enough money to eat peanuts by the time the season is over. It literally will tank your character. And the only thing you will achieve is what the event deck throws at you anyway. More on that later. So, you know, that is a bad way to play the farmer. The game doesn't say it's bad. It doesn't tell you you're playing badly or suboptimally. You just kind of know you are because you're not able to do anything. So, okay, I do a bit of research and it turns out the farmer really does need that equipment. You need to get the equipment, use it to chain abilities and stuff. So, okay, I do that, I do it, and fine, I make more money and I start doing better. That's the farmer solved. Like, literally, that's it. I cannot suddenly think, well, you know what, I'm going to try this strategy, or I'm going to try this way of playing it, or do this weird style of play. It's not like Caverna, for example, where you could go, right, this time I'm going to harvest all the sheep. This time I'm going to do donkey mining. This time I'm going to go adventuring. And this time I'm going to, you know, grow lots of grain and carrots and stuff. No, the farmer is literally get tiles, put them next to equipment, flip them, do stuff, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. The same thing over and over and over and over. Is that fun? Not for me, it's not. You know, once I've got the hang of, all right, this is how that character works, I realise that all I am doing is just ad nauseum rinse repeating the same mini game. And it's not like each character has like a plethora of things they can do. I mean, you do one town action and then you do a couple of things with your character based on whether you've got some of these sprite and like sprite worker dice and that. And trying to get a lot of these dice is pretty expensive, so you don't have a ton of them. So you're not doing that many actions per round per se. There's only 9 rounds in a season, so by the time you've got anywhere to begin with, the season's already ended and you're going on to the next one. But God blimey, you play these characters suboptimally and you could be spending multiple seasons literally just going through the motions and not really achieving much, which is a pretty frustrating experience to say the least. But if you do play them well and you solve them quick, then fine, you'll make some money and you'll buy more cards. But, you know, the fact that yes, you have 4 characters, but it literally is which mini game do I want to spam today, it does get a little bit dry and a little bit repetitive very quick. I mentioned some good stuff with the components in terms of it's aesthetically pleasing, and I do like they give you trays and it's a quick setup time, but it's not all good. Some of the component factors in here drove me nuts. Firstly, yes, you do have this tray, and yes, you do have some of these slots and that, but it's better for some characters than others. Like, say, the crafter's not too bad with the components there. But man, some of these components are finicky to work with. The farmer especially. This like little bit here where you lay down the tiles does not give you a lot of ground clearance for the tiles, and if you jostle this in any way, or, you know, put your finger down in the wrong place, if you've got fat fingers and you're manipulating this, you're going to be constantly uplifting tiles from here, and it gets very fiddly and annoying, you know, having to sort of almost play with these tiny little pieces on your board because it's obviously condensed down size-wise, that, you know, big hands, big fingers just makes this a little bit unwieldy at times. The other thing I was definitely not a fan of when I unboxed this, and this is a word of warning, the game does not have a boxing guide. And when I say a boxing guide, I don't just mean, oh, a sheet that says how you put everything in the box. No, 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 no. I mean that this game does not tell you where things go in the box. It literally basically instantly shows you a list of components, which is fine, I want to know the components, right? And then goes into first game setup. And that's it. The only time you actually find out when components go back in the box and how they go back in the box is when you get the end of the season and you read the save game bit.
Right.
So this is a game that expects you to play a game of it before you've repackaged it back in the box from when you unboxed it.
I'm sure on some planet your style is quite impressive, but your weak link is, this is Earth.
You literally have to guess where they go until you've actually played the character for a season and done the save game bit. Who does that? That doesn't make any sense. But, you know, once you've conquered that hurdle, then fine, but it's a hurdle that should not have existed. On that matter alone, no reference cards, and that's another big deal because you know, if you've got a game that is asymmetric roles, asymmetric styles of play, reference cards are even more important than they normally are. Here, you don't have that. None of the characters have their own reference guide. You have their own little journal, but this is a 30+ page rule book at times, full of rules that you are supposed to use as a reference. No, because it will have a reference on the back for some iconography, of which some of it is repeated and some of it isn't across the characters, and then it will have like a day phase thing. So I appreciate that it gives you that, but there's no other way to check how something works apart from going into the books themselves. And even like the main book, the town and the general, there's a massive iconography guide here, but there's no reference on the back of this as to how the typical turn sequence works like normally. So I find myself when I'm playing this constantly having to reference in here and here, and I hate referencing multiple rule books. That always gets on my nerves. Now, the rules are not terribly complex, so it's not like playing Voidfall where you're gonna have to learn the rules like 100 times every time you play the game. But here, it's still, you want to give me a game that is all a zen-like feeling of just play a game, have a nice time, and just go with the flow. Then stop putting these little hurdles in the way that make it more frustrating than it needs to be. You've then got this space you can go to, which is effectively like the adventure mode. So it's just another deck of cards, and there's only so many at the start, and you'll shuffle in more as you do more things, but it's not really a story. They're just things that happen to you. Imagine if you watched a Miyazaki movie like Kiki's Delivery Service, or one of those slice of life type movies, the ones where there isn't really a plot. There's no real beginning and end. It's just you watch this person do stuff for an hour and a half and then it finishes. Now, I like Studio Ghibli movies and I like those movies. I like Kiki's Delivery Service, but if I would watch it for like about 70-80 minutes, which is what the length of those movies is, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm kind of done watching this slice of life. But here, this slice of life thing is going on forever. Some things do expand out, but the story is not particularly gripping. It's not engaging because there isn't really a story. It's you have the event deck and then you have the adventure deck, which is basically another event deck, except you choose when to trigger the event as opposed to the other one triggering when it feels like.
Overall, I would rate it a C+. Okay? Not great.
Now, this whole concept of beginning, middle, and end, yes, this game is going to give you a decent amount of content. I mean, you're going to be playing this for a fair while before you exhaust what it has to offer, but it's not an endless game. You need to understand that this whole definition they use, where it's basically an endless game, simply isn't true. There is a limit to how many buildings you can make. There is a limit to how many event cards are in this deck, and there is a limit to how many adventures you will go through. Yes, you could, you won't use every single card in a game because you will branch off at times, but eventually you will reach a stage where, assuming you haven't got bored with the whole rinse repeat Euro mechanic thing, where you have played out what adventures you can. And so if you decide to replay the whole thing again, you're going to see a lot of rinse repeat in those adventure cards, because you're not going to remember exactly what you did and which paths you took. So it's not like you're going to see every different card that you missed along the way. And I can't see myself being in the position where I would want to not only rinse repeat the same mechanic over and over again, because as I said, there's no variation here, but also the idea that, I would play this just to see what other event cards I didn't take. I don't think that's anything that I would reasonably want to do. So, you're going to get a decent amount for your money, but I think you will reach a point where the replay value will just kind of stop unless you buy more expansion content. Mythwind is a very strange game to review because it's got mixed feedback on the internet. Some love it. There are some people out there who adore it, solo and 2-player. And then there are others who play it and they're bored, they don't like it, they're like, what is the point of this? This is a pointless game and endeavor. So where do I fit? Kind of in the middle, but I am leaning towards that negative side because the main people I see enjoying this are two camps here. One, solo gamers, and I'm a solo gamer as well, so I do like a solo game, but these are solo Euro gamers who love just doing Euro mechanics. The other group I notice who are loving this are couples, usually couples who are either not particularly heavy gamers themselves or have a spouse that isn't a heavy gamer, and this game does suit that. If you want to play this with your non-gamer spouse and just have a 2-player experience between you, I can see the appeal for something like like this. You know, it gets them into something straightforward. They can just play the farmer, you play the merchant, and the two of you can have some quality time together. Not something I have to deal with myself, but for some solo gamers, it's more just, oh, you know, I like playing Euro mechanics and I just want to play a different Euro mechanic without having like a big baddie to kill or conflict or anything like that. So that sort of thing is where it's appealing to people. But I don't fall into that camp because Lands of Galzir gives me a good, fun little narrative to go through. It gives, you know, there's no beginning, middle, or end, but it gives me these different quests that I can go on, and I choose what adventure I want to go on, choose what items I want, choose what skills I want to do, and play through my own story. Here, there isn't really a story. These adventure cards are just not engaging or compelling enough. They're just basically do something A or B and you might get another card or you might get a little bonus. I mean, they're not engaging stories or that interesting. So what I am left with is a game where I'm basically just rinse repeating the same Euro mechanic over and over again, you know, just to make money and do more stuff. You're either going to love this game to bits or you're just going to kind of ignore it and just find it meh. And for me, this one is a very meh game. I wanted to get more out of this. I wanted it to, you know, be a bit like the Lands of Galzir thing, that, oh yes, I can just play this and have a nice bit of a charming time, but, you know, all these different rules that I've got to learn, or the fiddliness of some of these components, the fact that once I've played the character and solved it, that's it. There's no other variety with that character. It's just do the same thing, and the mini games themselves are not always that interesting. This one just feels very flat to me. You know, giving this one a review rating is kind of tricky, but I've got no desire to play this again. You know, once I'm done with this game, that's it. Somebody else can have it. You know, I've tried it, and most of the time, I just feel myself being mostly bored. And that's not what I want from a game. It's got quick setup, great. Quick setup times and all that, that's all really cool. And it's certainly made an effort here. And I can see where some people are going to really like this. But I just simply didn't. For me, it's a 4 out of 10. It's below average. It doesn't make it a bad game per se. It's not bad. I don't think it is. I think there's definitely some effort here. And there are some aspects that I think they've done well. But for me, I just don't get a kick out of rinsing and repeating a Euro mini game all the time with no purpose to it. You know, if I'm going to play a 3-hour Euro game that rinse and repeats certain Euro mechanics, the game still has an ending. Here, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again with no real variation other than just changing which character or mini game I feel like playing today. And so it just doesn't really appeal to me. You know, perhaps I'm the wrong audience, I don't know. People will no doubt claim this, but given that I like Lands of Galzir loads, and I didn't particularly like this one, it's not that I don't like games that don't have beginning, middle, ends and stuff, because that one didn't. But this one is more about the Euro game rinse repeat, whereas the other one is more about the story narrative rinse repeat. I much prefer a compelling story when I play these types of games, not just simply a Euro game with a mediocre bunch of event cards tacked onto it, which is what the whole story aspect of this feels like. So it's a 4 out of 10 for me, but I can understand that some people are going to love this. So by all means, check out a breadth of reviews and see what category you fall into, because you need to know where you stand in terms of what the game offers you and how you like to play a game. Because if you get it wrong, you could be in, for like me, a bit of a disappointment.
You were the chosen one!
So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the site. Don't forget to check out more content on the show. The top 100 is almost completed. I've just got the last 20 games to mention. The other one is being edited as we speak. And there's some other reviews recently, like Age of Rome and Raising Robots, to check out as well. And of course, leave your comments down below. I'm sure there's a bunch of you that are going to hate on me for the fact that I've given this a lowish rating, but hey, look, I'm speaking my mind, I'm being honest here. You might be one of these people that loves the game, in which case, fair play. But by all means, get your comments down below whether you love the game or hate the game. I think it's going to be a very useful compendium for people to refer to. Not just my opinion, but other opinions as well. And until next time, remember, regardless of which minigame you want to play today, it's still only a game, so pick wisely and have a fun time.